Now we will go through certain guidelines for prompt engineering. Now these are the thumb rules which you need to always follow. Okay, so the first thing is that you need to write clear and specific instructions. What do we mean by write clear and specific instructions? So avoid ambiguity in your prompts. Now what does this mean? Instead of writing, write something interesting. What you can do is you can try write a short story about a robot who falls in love with a human. Now, the more specific you are, the better the LLM understands your intention, right? So, if you are clear in what you want as a response from LLM, the better response you will get. So when I said that write something interesting, I didn't know what it will be writing. If it would have given me something, say some thriller or some horror, then maybe I would not have been that happy, because somewhere I wanted it to write a short story about robot who falls in love with a human. So if you want something specific, then just say it, put it in the prompt, right? Just you have to write it down what you want. So you have to be very clear in what you want as your response. Now, second thing is that clear does not mean short. Okay, so when we say that clear does not mean short, is basically if you know specific details, if you know what you want and it takes more number of tokens, it is perfectly fine, because the more inputs you're giving to your LLM, the more you're telling it that this is exactly what I want. Unless you don't really know what you want, or you want to maybe give it a try initially, or maybe you want to experiment, then you can give a shorter prompt. Okay, so if you want to give a short prompt, then it is perfectly fine if you don't know what you really want as a response. But if you really know what you want as a response, then you need to give those details in your prompt so that you get that type of response from it. Okay, now the second tactic is basically use of delimiters. Okay, so when we say use delimiters, we mean that whenever you want to write something, whenever you want to give a prompt, you need to wrap your input in specific tags. Okay, you can see the tags here. Here we have these specific tags. Instruction tag. Okay, so when I say inst, this means that it is the beginning of the instruction, and when I say /inst, it means that it is the ending of the instruction. Okay, so it is the beginning of the instruction, the system prompt. So sys basically means the system prompt. So instruction, beginning of instruction, system prompt, and you pass the system prompt. This is the end of system prompt. Okay, and then you pass the user message, right? So what this basically means is that these are the different tokens. So the first token is the beginning of the entire sequence. This sys is basically the beginning of the system message. This is the ending of the system message. This is the beginning of some instruction, and this is the ending of a particular instruction. So here you can see that this is the instruction. So I'm telling this is the system instruction, that I want my LLM to play a particular role, and this is the role which I am suggesting my assistant to play. I want it to be helpful, I want it to be respectful and honest assistant, and I want it to not give any toxic answers, not racist, not dangerous, not illegal content. So it has to make sure that the responses are socially unbiased and positive. And then I'm telling it that it has to be factually coherent, and it should explain why, instead of answering something not correct, it should give the details that okay, this is not correct, or this is the reason why I'm not giving you the answer, because this what you're requesting is toxic in nature maybe, or this is illegal, so I cannot answer you. So it has to frame the answer accordingly. So here in the role, in the system prompt, I'm assigning the role to my assistant, and then in the user message, basically I am telling it that this is the action which you want to perform. So the system prompt keeps being the same, and the user prompt basically keeps on changing. Okay, so this is the delimiter. Now what happens here is that if you're writing a chat app, okay, and in that chat app you have multiple exchanges between the user and the llama, so you will have to mark the beginning of the user input with the instruction tag and end it with /inst tag. So what happens is, like, let's say I am not giving instruction tag, or I am giving the instruction tag, but I'm giving a proper detail that where my instruction is starting and where it is ending. What will happen is that it will give me a good response, and instead of the let's say if I am not giving it in the same way, if I am not giving it in the recommended way, what will happen is that if we use a different syntax, let's say we don't give these delimiters, then it will not be able to understand where the instructions are starting and where the instructions are ending. So next time when I am passing the previous conversation to my LLM in for after the first dialogue, when I am passing it in the second dialogue, what will happen is it will pass the response which the LLM had created earlier along with it. Okay, so this will basically increase the length of my prompt. If I would have given the delimiters, then it would have considered only the instructions tokens as the input, and it would have ignored the other text. So it is basically helpful in reducing the token length also. That is why we need to have this delimiters, right? This will basically guide our LLM with the flow of the information, and it will also help it in a way that, let's say if the dialogue goes very long, okay, let's say we have a 10-20 dialogues going on, so it will be difficult for our LLM to keep track of the very first dialogue, right? But if we keep the delimiters handy, then what will happen is that it will be able to keep only the relevant information, and it will be able to keep the context in place. So delimiters are very important. So what we will do now is we will create a function for getting the response based on the prompt. So this is my get completion. So here I have created a prompt, and basically I will have to pass the prompt, and in case I want to change the temperature, then I will have to pass the temperature to it, and then it will print the prompt for me, and it will print the entire response, and it will print the first choice of the response for me also. So I can simply run this. Now let us use the first tactic from the prompting principles. So basically we will use the delimiters. So here you can decide upon what delimiter you want, right? So here what I am doing is I am giving no specific delimiter here. Here I am saying that summarize the text delimited by triple backtick. So basically whatever text will be given here, this will be summarized. Okay, and what is my text? This is the text which will be passed here. Okay, so this is the text which will be passed inside this triple backticks. Okay, so we will simply run this using the get completion. So inside get completion, we are passing the prompt, and the prompt contains this detail of what the task is and what text this task needs to be performed on. So we'll simply run this. We don't really need to get the response and print it. So let's wait for this. So this is the output which we get. So it is giving the prompt. So the prompt is summarize, and you give the entire detail, and this is the triple backtick in which the details are given, and this is the response. Here is the text summarized into a single sentence, and the single sentences provide clear and specific instructions to guide the model towards the desired output and avoid confusing brevity with clarity, right? What we discussed, that clarity is not equal to short, clear is not equal to short. Okay, so make sure you give enough details. Okay, so that is our first tactic.